Podcast is proudly sponsored by the Bunkers Hill Hockley. Don't miss Panthers game day offers, including Coors Light at £2.50 a pint. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Cat's Whiskers Podcast. We are live and it's 8:45pm. My name is Jono Bullard and I'm delighted to welcome with me on this podcast Tina Taylor.
Hiya.
Adam Reddish.
Evening everybody.
And making a well-documented return after a few weeks away on a Monday night. Well, a few months away on a Monday night I think it should be. It's Mr. Aaron Lord.
Good evening, Jonathan. Good evening, everybody.
Right, we will kick straight off. If you want to get in touch with us at any time during tonight, you can do via Twitter. It's at Cat's Whiskers TV. We would love to hear from you throughout the show. We will be looking back on all Panthers games over the past week against Braehead, Edinburgh and Cardiff, announcing the player of the week, and also looking at the other news in the Elite League. Wonder what we could be talking about there. And then looking ahead to next week's weekend games against the Milton Keynes Lightning and the Coventry Blaze. But we will kick off by going back to last Wednesday night and Challenge Cup game against the Braehead clan, which finished Clan 3, Panthers 5. Panthers goals with a double from Jan Sauvé, another double from Evan Mosey and Josh Shallett completing the scoring. Clan goals, a brace from Tyler Schofield and Tyler Shattuck with their 3. So, guys, a much-needed CC win. Only 2 points gained with a home win against Manchester. So it was imperative that we got the 2 points in this one, Adam.
Yeah, it was. And I think it was a reasonable performance. I didn't see it. I wasn't there. I've seen the highlights. But, you know, from what I gather, it seemed like we controlled the game quite well. You know, we got on the board early, which is always good to do on the road. And yeah, the Challenge Cup points are really important because we were, you know, starting to, looking in a little bit of a vulnerable position to try and make it out of this group. So, you know, that 2 points is going to be really valuable, and hopefully it'll, be a springboard to go on and get a few more points and make it out of the group.
In Aaron, that was Jan Sauvé's 4th goal in 3 games at that time. I mean, he's a very good defenceman. But his transitional play and the way he comes forward, he gives us an extra option in attack.
Yeah, he certainly does, and you can tell that by the amount of minutes that he plays. And obviously, when we signed him and we added him to our roster, you know, it was mentioned about his shot from the blue line. But you can, you know, we've watched many games now with him in, and you can see that he has got talent. And obviously, that talent came to the forefront last Wednesday. So yeah, very positive, really. And I think, like Adam just said, you know, it was 2 points that we needed. And for me, it kind of puts, you know, qualification into the next round in our hands, which is what you ideally want, isn't it?
I would like to think so. I mean, we can't take anything for granted because, you know, we've already had a home loss against the Braehead clan. So, you know, there's nothing
that
to
was
say
league though, as opposed to the cup.
I mean, regardless, I mean, they are really in the mire at the moment. They're going to take, the victories where they can get it. They need to find some momentum from somewhere. So I don't think they much care where the wins are coming from at the moment. And so, you know, I don't think that's relevant, to be honest, at the moment. I think they are just so desperately searching for some consistent wins that, you know, I think that we could find ourselves on the wrong end of it again if we take it lightly. So, you know, there's a possibility it could obviously go either way without, you know, wanting to drag the cliche shovel out too early. But I think, you know, not wanting to kick them while they're down, but we really do need to make sure that we get the points, especially against Braehead, because Manchester is still in a fabulous run of form. So, on paper, as things stand at the moment, we're going to find it harder to get the points from Manchester. So we really need to think about, what we need to do to secure them against Braehead, really.
Okay. So that leaves that there, and we'll move on to Saturday night. A home game against the Edinburgh Capitals at the NIC. Panthers coming away with a 5-2 victory. Panthers goals from Tim Billingsley, Alexander Mokshantsev with a brace, Eric Lindhagen and Brett Polini. Caps goals coming courtesy of Yuri Opaitis, I think. Opaitis, well, and Mike Cazzola. It did say Opaitis had got 2. On the game sheet, but it was definitely Mike Cazzola who scored on the breakaway, so we are giving him the goal. And Tina, we did make hard work of it, but we pulled away very well in the third and secured the points.
Yeah, I mean, we did something that I really hope is not going to start to become a Panthers thing. Both of the goals that we conceded in the first and second period were in the last minute of the periods. So it was. I don't know if we can be we can be accused of being guilty of switching off. Just sort of getting watching the clock tick down towards the end of the period, and just sort of thinking of getting out of there. It was annoying more than anything. It was. I didn't feel too worried because if the game if there's one goal in it or you level, it's still anybody's to take. So it wasn't a massive issue apart from for me anyway. Apart from when the goals were conceded, I think there were very timely goals by Edinburgh, and they could have come out in the third and taken the momentum that goal, especially at the end of the second, had given them. But somehow we came out with more jump, and we were the better team in that third period, and I think the scoreline did reflect that in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot has been said about us making opposition netminders look good, but Aaron Pavel Shigalo, he had an excellent game in the Caps net. I mean, it wasn't as if shots were going at him; he was making some ridiculous saves at times.
Yeah, no, I thought that on the night, and then I watched the highlights back this afternoon, and there was some really decent saves in there. And like you say, not, you do have those conversations with people that you stand on the concourse or during the game, and you say, we need to test the keeper a little bit more. We're shooting to the body, etc. But no, he had some real highlight saves, and I just think it's. People come to come and play the Panthers, and they see what we've done in the CHL and stuff like that, and I think they want to test themselves. And we say that about outfield skaters, so why should the netminder be any different? And I think, he's just one of many netminders this season already that has just upped their game a little bit when coming against us. So, no, I thought I said to the people in and around me that if he doesn't get man in the match for the Caps, then there's something wrong, and he was fully deserved it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adam, I'll move on to you. Alexander Mokshantsev, and I know I asked Tina this question with our live podcast straight after the game on Saturday, but 2 goals. Has he been the find of the season for the Panthers, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. When he was signed, a bit of an unknown quantity. His stats weren't massively impressive in terms of putting points on the board as a forward. So I don't know what sort of roles he'd been playing on his previous teams, but I mean, I must admit I didn't really expect a great deal from him. I thought he'd be a fourth line fixture for most of the season. But it was quite clear in those early games that the guy's got bags and bags of talent, and he's got so much high-end skill levels, it's untrue. I mean, he can do everything. He stick handles well. He's a really fast and smooth skater. And for somebody that's not massively bulky, he doesn't mind going into the corners and doing the dirty work as well, and grafting for the puck, to try and win it back. So, I think we really have got a star on our hands, and some of the goals he's scored, have been absolute highlight reel stuff. He seems to be able to do it all, and I hope that he sort of maintains his performance levels throughout the whole course of the season.
Yeah, I mean, what's Aaron, your thoughts on Mokshansev, because he has been a revelation. We've said it before that we didn't know what to expect. Very little was known about him, and in he comes, and he really has not only torn it up in the CHL, but he's starting to tear it up in the domestic game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that, but I'm also going to maybe just be a little bit, and I don't want it to sound negative, but just I think we still need to kind of reel our sort of, not ambitions, but, he's a young lad still. I don't think we should stop him trying to do the things that he does, because that's obviously his natural game. And I think what Corey's done is, when he's performed well, he's moved him up the lines, if you would, and given him maybe some more attacking prowess on the line that he's on. But then he's also, if he's not performing, that well that game, that he's brought him back down to that so-called fourth line. But I think he is a find, like Adam just said. And I think for me, it's just making sure that we don't try and stifle him. He's just somebody that, like I just said, that has got this ability, and he can pull things out of the bag that we haven't seen for quite a few seasons at the Panthers. So very exciting, and he's only young. 21, is he 22, something like that? I mean, there's a lot of years ahead of him, and it's quite scary to think of where he could go if he carries on producing the kind of performances that we've seen, to date.
Do you think he is a shop window sort of signing, where he's probably come to the Elite League for a season to hopefully tear it up, get himself noticed, and then move on to probably a bigger team in Europe? I mean, Tina, is that something you can see happening?
I don't think he would be alone in that, to be honest. I think that we've got one or two players who are looking to use the Panthers as a stepping stone, to be honest. I mean, when use is I don't want that to sound like I'm they're just here, to use us, because that's not quite what I'm getting at. But yeah, I think, I mean, we've already talked about it. I mean, let's talk about Jan Sove. Had we not been in the CHL, I don't think we would have seen him playing for the Panthers, and also coupled with the fact that he didn't play very much last season. So I think he's another guy who's probably looking to get back in. Well, for Sove specifically, he's looking back to get back into the swing of things, get himself match fit, and we've been playing some absolutely stunning teams in some of the better teams in Europe, and I think with what we've done, there's a lot of players that are going to get noticed. I mean, we've had questions coming on Ask TCWs, we've had comments flying into us. Do we expect to keep everybody that we have for the whole season? And it's a valid question. It's a valid question. It's not just that we could find come to the end of the season and players are going to say, thank you very much, Panthers, you've done an awful lot for me, and I'm going off to bigger and better things. I think there is genuinely a danger that we could get some players being poached. I mean, we've managed to bring players in mid-season ourselves, various seasons past. So yeah, Mokshansev is definitely one of those. I mean, what was it Corey said about him? He'll probably start on the fourth line, but he won't stay on the fourth line, and that much is obvious.
Hey, another thing I'll ask, and it's something that's just come to me, but we talk about players putting themselves in the shop window, but do our performances in the CHL now make us a buyer rather than a looker?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I think go on, Adam, I'll let you go.
Oh, cheers. I think so. I mean, we've shown that we can mix it with the biggest teams in Europe. So, other people out there are going to be looking at that and thinking, British ice hockey, it's not quite as bad, or, it doesn't sort of live up to the stereotypes or expectations that I had. So, I reckon that this year has been great because, we've got Mokshansev and he's been a real revelation. Maybe, that might be something that we'll see on a more regular basis in future seasons, that players come over and they think, well, I'm prepared to give the Elite League a try, whereas before they might not have come here and they might have decided to, go to a French league or the Italian league. Instead, they don't mind showcasing the talents in this country because they know that teams will play in the Premier knockout tournament in Europe, and if they've got aspirations to move on to bigger and better things and play for the real super giant teams in Europe, then maybe a stepping stone club in the UK is exactly what their CV needs.
Anyone else come on? Aaron, did you have a point to make on that?
No, I was just going to say that I think it's a good point and a good question that you kind of ask, and I think it does work both ways. It's similar to kind of what Tina said. It's similar to what Adam says. I think if you go back to the start of the season and when we were talking about recruiting a new team, it was obvious, and Corey said we're going to change the way that we recruit, and we're going to recruit some young, hungry players. And now that means, and it's literally just what Adam says, if they want to move on to a higher league in Europe or even maybe back to North America, they've got to perform well at this club. Now that benefits us straight away, but then also I think all these things that we do, the Continental Cup, the CHL, all these 1 games that we win, 2 games that we've won, the whole competition, if you go back to the Continental Cup, it can only be of benefit to us as a club because it makes us more attractive to people that want to come and potentially try something a little bit different in this league. Now that stands us in good stead. So it works both ways for me. We get a benefit out of it, and it's sport. Players, I would want players to play for my club that have ambition. I don't want people to just come to our club and go, do you know what, it's a nice club to play for, they treat us well, we play in a nice arena, we've got a good set of fans, I'm quite happy here, and I'm not really bothered about going anywhere else, really. Yes, some of those players are nice, don't get me wrong, but if people want to play and improve and show themselves to be a better player than some clubs, other agents, etc., think that they are, then I'm quite happy with that too, because in my eyes, that means that we are going to get better performances. And I know people might go, oh, but we get them in the CHL and we've not had them in the league. Well, do you know what? In my eyes, CHL scouts or scouts from other leagues will watch a CHL game and they'll go, bloody hell, that's amazing. They might then come and go and watch us against Cardiff, for example, last night. They ain't going to be that impressed with that. So they've got to perform in the league as well as the CHL. Do you know what I mean? But it can't, because people go, oh, they only turn up for the CHL. Well, yeah, don't get me wrong, that puts you in the shop window. But if they don't do it in the league, then I don't think people are just going to recruit on watching, the CHL on TV or live if they go to the games. So it's got to benefit us in a way. Well, that's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah, we'll come on to the overall league situation when we talk about the Cardiff game next. But yes, I can see your point. But one point I will make is that in the league we've won 7 and lost 3. That's not a bad record, to say the least. And I don't think the panic button should be being pressed just yet, as they are being done by some after last night's result. But this is probably a good time to move on to last night, Sunday night, at the Ice Arena Wales, an Elite League game against the Cardiff Devils. Devils coming away with a 6-2 victory, so a bit of a shellacking for the Panthers, and something we're probably not used to this season, to be fair. Panthers goals coming from Eric Lindhagen and Alexander Mokshantsev. Devils goals, Jake Morissette with a hat-trick, Joey Martin, Paul Crowder and Josh Batch netting for the Red Army. Before we talk about the game, our very own Antoine Marie-Jean was there, and here's what he had to say.
Hi, it's Ant. I'm on the Panthers travel coach on the way back from Cardiff. Well, not a lot really to say about that game.
That's what we've got to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It was not a great performance from the Panthers. In particular, Michael Garnett will want at least 3 of the goals back. An absolute bullet of an own goal from Jan Sauvé. Pretty much sums up the Panthers' night, really. The only positive, we scored a power play goal. So, yay, that's 2 power play goals in as many games. My first trip to Ice Arena Wales, lovely building. Cardiff fans, as usual, were really hospitable. It sounds like there's going to be a few of them on the way up to watch us in the CHL in a couple of weeks' time, so that'll be nice to see a bunch of fans there. Yeah, not really a lot more to say. It's just a very, very bad night at the office for Panthers. Lindhagen probably and Farmer probably are only real players that can come out of that with any sort of credit. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Thanks very much to Ant for his thoughts there. Somebody else who was also in South Wales for what turned out to be quite a disappointing night was our very own Mr. Lord. So Aaron, sum it
up. Not a very good night at the office. I think that's one way of describing it. But before I kind of talk about the Panthers, I just want to give the Devils a bit of credit, because I think, they outclassed us and outperformed us in every area in my eyes. Obviously, they had a very disappointing result the night before. And, obviously, as a team and players, they got questioned and got told they needed to respond. And they really did respond. That's the worst I've seen us play this season. I will say that. Just totally one to forget. Didn't really get much rhythm going. I don't think we had much possession in the first period. I think you could probably count the number of times we kind of had any, half decent to decent plays on one hand, and you still would have a few fingers left. It was just a very poor night. I think we looked mentally a little bit, not there, and a little bit just tired, or we didn't really look up for it as we have seen in previous games. But I think you have to give the Devils a little bit of credit. They forechecked us very, very well. Didn't really give us much time to settle on the puck. We had a few opportunities that maybe might have changed the game slightly. And then obviously some really kind of disappointing goals, and then, one strange goal that Jan Sauvé scored as well. So, look, I think, Garnett would probably, first one, yes, I think it's a little bit too soft for me. I'm not surprised he got pulled. I don't think it was all his fault. I think as a team we kind of struggled, and unfortunately the netminder's the one that's got to bail you out at the very end, or it goes in the back of the net. So I think Garnett in the first period kept us in it in that period as well, so he deserves a bit of credit for that. Gospel, when he came in, did well. We tried to get things going, but it just wasn't a good night, and it wasn't very pretty to watch. And I think you just got to say, look, you're going to have some games like that. Put it to bed. Forget about it. When they go back into training tomorrow, we put it into history books, and we make sure that we, like the Devils wanted a response after their Saturday night, at Sheffield,
which they got.
Yeah, which they got. I would hope that we now get a response during training in the week, and then we see that on Saturday when we face the Milton Keynes Lightning. But yeah, not pretty and not enjoyable. But that's sport and that's hockey.
That's an interesting point that you actually make, Karen. And our good friend Sean Phillips, I saw a tweet from him on Saturday night. He was obviously in Sheffield, and he was saying too many passengers, ship up, ship up or ship out. And it seems that jobs maybe were on the line last night for some in Cardiff. I mean, Adam, do you think that's probably why they put in the performance that they did?
Well, I mean, we don't know whether that was, the fact for sure that, there were people discussing, players potentially leaving. But, I mean, it seemed to be some turnaround for Cardiff between the performance that they turned in Sheffield and then the performance that they turned in against us in front of the home crowd. I think that, perhaps harsh words were mentioned amongst the players and the coaching staff, and the Cardiff fans that I follow on Twitter seem to be a bit down on their team in recent weeks, and I think that yesterday will be a real tonic for them. And there was a lot of comments after the game saying, that's the sort of Cardiff Devils performance that we've been wanting to see for a few weeks now. The players were trying a lot harder, and the forecheck was a lot heavier, and the general effort level was much higher all around the ice, and we just didn't seem to have much in response to that. And I think we were found, more than a little bit wanting. I think, obviously Aaron makes some good points, and he saw it. He was in the rink. Watching on the webcast, it just seemed like everything that we tried to do failed. We were making passes and plays that just weren't there. I think Cardiff, took the neutral zone away from us well and stopped us from, skating through the neutral zone and building up any momentum on rushes. So we were really sort of picking off scraps a little bit in those certainly the first two periods. And then, the scoreline goes against us, and all of a sudden we're looking up a really, really steep hill, and there was no way back for us. So it was, I guess, a really, really poor road performance. And Aaron makes a very good point about us now needing to see a reaction, from that game, and hopefully we take it out on Milton Keynes when we get to the weekend.
On the website today, it says that the players were itching to get back to training after their day off today. Rick Strachan was interviewed, and he says that the performance was not good enough, and we do need to see a reaction on Saturday against Milton Keynes. We've criticised the club in the past for not reacting and glossing over defeats, but this is the sort of attitude that you want to hear, really, isn't it? That the players want to put it right, and the coaching staff saying, no, that's not good enough.
Well, yeah, it is. But the thing is, you've got to back up those words with action. I really welcome the fact that the people at the club, the coaching staff and players are making all the right noises about, wanting to atone for what was a really, sloppy road performance. But we need to see it on Saturday, and we're still yet to see the Panthers give anybody a real good hiding. There's been a couple of games where it's looked like we're going to stretch the scoreline out, but the teams we've been playing have pulled it around a little bit to make the scorelines look a bit respectable. But maybe this Saturday against Milton Keynes could be the night where the players just take out some of the frustrations, and we put on a really, really good performance for the fans.
You could see that, sorry JB, just before you jump in and go to Tina, but you could see that on the night, don't get me wrong. Like last night, you could see that the players were frustrated, and and it's like Adam hit the nail on the head when he just said we just couldn't get things going, and things just we tried something, but after the second pass, then it just went a little bit wrong or something, and they were smashing sticks on the floor, when they're going to change lines, etc., and it's not quite clicking. So you could see that from the lads' point of view, and that's why I just think you've just got to kind of go, it's just one of those days where it is a real bad day at the office, and everything that we just tried, just either we didn't do well enough doing it, or we didn't execute it quite rightly, or just the Cardiff Devils came in and stopped us from getting in our stride, etc. But you could see the lads were frustrated on the night as well.
Tina, we've had the usual noises after a Panthers defeat. There always is. Do you think it's just a blip, or do you think there really are reasons for concern?
I don't think it's reasons for concern. I mean, the only thing we should really be concerned about, I know over the weekend we scored 2 power play goals, but the power play is still a concern because it's opportunities missed. That's goals that we could be using as a cushion, like we did against Belfast.
But to use the stats, we had 2 power play goals from 10 attempts, so 20%, which is much more where we want to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's currently running about 12, so 20% is a lot better. But
yeah. Oh yeah, and that's good. But I think we need to see some consistency before we stop being concerned about the power play. Concerns over the team itself, I'm not concerned. It's we're third in the table right now. So it's a healthy place to be.
Having played less games than the teams above us. And exactly, I know points in the bag are always better than games in hand. I know that, but if you look at it on a percentage basis, I think we're 70%, and only Manchester and Fife better than that.
I'm not concerned at the minute. We don't. I'm sure somebody can pull out some stats to back me up or shoot me down on this, but I always feel like we don't travel very well down to Wales. It's like the spirit of the Big Blue Tent lives on, even though it's a nice, lovely, new, shiny building. I don't know. It's just I'm not worried at the minute. I would like to see, I would like to see the click. We talked about it after the Belfast win. Was that the click that Andy has been talking about? The one where when it happens, teams are just not going to be able to live with us. And it looked like it could have been, but it obviously wasn't, because it's not. It's that hasn't carried through consistently. We're still looking good. We're doing all right. We're in a healthy sort of position in the table right now. But I think I would like to see us turn it on just a little bit more, just to give us a little bit more ease about the performances and about the way this team is going to perform for the league challenge this season. But at the moment, where we are, what time of year it is, and how most of the team are looking, I mean, I'm not worried. I don't think that I'm looking at any particular or any single member of our team and thinking, I'm worried about you. You should be doing better. No, there's nothing like that. It's there. It is there, and I think we just need to work hard, and hopefully the enthusiasm to get back on it that Rick Strachan has talked about is it's not just a PR front. Hopefully that is there, and I really hope we see this reaction. My only trepidation with that is if we do see a reaction, it's going to probably be poor old Mika Weekman that suffers at the hands of it.
Yes, it probably will be. Well, before we move on to the Player of the Week vote that you have voted for over the past 24 hours or so, just a few of the comments that you made on your voting forms. A lot about the power play, it has to be said. This was a spectacular own goal from Sauvé, typified the game last night. And I think that probably says a lot.
It was beautiful, but I would have preferred him to score it past bounds.
Yeah. Another comment: Billingsley, Lindargan, and Lacko up their games. Poor from Garnett. I mean, Aaron, is that fair? I mean, how you said Garnett didn't do the greatest, but from the highlights, it didn't look like he got a lot of protection. But looking at the goals that went in, there's a couple at least he will probably want back.
Yeah. I think, like I said earlier, the first period, he certainly made some good saves that kept us in the game. Yes, I think, like you've just said, there's a couple there that, and I mentioned earlier the first goal, I think that you'd want your netminder to maybe do a little bit better. So I think it's one of those. Yes, did he have the perfect game? Then no, he didn't. But neither did the people in front of him. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, the netminders, if you don't save it, then unfortunately it goes in and it goes against you. And the other people on the ice, yes, I know they get minus points and all that stuff, but they don't really get blamed for them, do they? Unless it's an absolute howler from that person, or literally let somebody skated straight past them without even trying to get the puck off them. So I think you're a little bit damned as a netminder in that incident. And I think the problem as well is Galbraith performed quite well and decent on the Saturday night. So automatically people are comparing the two and going, well, he should start. And there was people at Ice Arena Wales going, I don't know why Galbraith hadn't started, etc. And I think that might be a little bit of a conundrum and maybe a question that we'll get on Ask TCW for Wednesday. But who becomes our number one netminder, etc. But I think there was more reasons to the performance than just Mike Garnett. I think as a team, we let each other down and we let the whole team down. So I think he'd want some back. But I think it's, as a team, we just didn't perform. And just very quickly before you move on, what Tina, with what she was just saying about the blip and everything like that, it just made me think that I think the problem is our highs have been so high, and then when we get a low, it's been quite low. Like last night was quite low for me, and sometimes in the middle, it's not. We don't get like a battling performance where we've just. We've just lost out by an odd goal or something, or it feels that we've been in a game but then lost it. Maybe it feels like the highs are just extremely high, and the lows are quite low. So you expect more from the team because of the highs. But I also think as well, we've got so many more gears to go up. I think there's games that we win, and you go, we've only just made it into third gear. So I don't really see, and I fully back what Tina said at the end. I don't look at anybody on that team going, you scare me a little bit, you worry me. Or even that there's somebody out there that we know of that could be doing better for themselves or for the team. So it just made me thought of that when Tina just said. So, sorry, I had to say that. Sorry, folks.
No problem. Well, one of the last comment I'll use is, again, about the power play. The power play is totally ineffective and could cost us dearly at the end of the league campaign. What does Corey need to do to get it clicking? Adam, you have a go at that one.
I wish I had the answer. I think he just needs to let his gifted forwards just do what they want, really. I think you've got to give them a bit of freedom and flexibility.
A Colton Fretter do what you want, or just
top quality coaching there. Do what you want.
I meant creatively, not physically. Just want to put that on the record. So we all see when we're 5-on-5 that we are a real offensive threat when we go forward. We move the puck quickly. We've got guys that have got good vision. You can make a great pass, and see something that nobody else can see. We need to start taking that into the power play, and I don't know whether the power play tactics are too rigid, and Corey tells them to play a very, very specific way when they're out on the power play units. So I would be inclined to say to the guys that are getting the power play minutes, look guys, what do you think you can do to make the power play more effective and more functional, and ultimately make it more of a threat? Because I know the power play improved a little bit statistically over the weekend, but all the same failings were still there. Slowly moving the puck around. We had forwards not moving. Just occupying the same bit of ice, which makes defending against it very easy because you don't need to go and trail a player. So I'd be very much minded if I was Corey to say to these guys, look, you're very creative, you're very skilled and gifted when you're playing even-handed. How can we sort of translate that into the man advantage or even two-man advantage? Because it, like Aaron said there, we seem to be playing in some games in third gear, but the power play seems to be in the first or second gear. So surely the power play's got a few more gears to go up. I don't know. It's a real conundrum, and I'm sure it's weighing heavy on Corey's mind a little bit because if you consider how good we do play generally when we're 5-on-5, if we had a really high performing power play, we would be lethal in the league.
Yeah. Fair enough. We shall leave that there then and move on to Player of the Week. Let's say you voted for over the past 24 hours. Let me get the drum roll ready. So, in third place is Robert Farmer. In second place, Saturday's netminder Patrick Galbraith with a 21 save from 23 shots. And in first place, he's done it for the fourth time this season. 3 goals this weekend. It's Alexander Mokshantsev. He is our player of the week for this week. Guys, fair?
I would say so. Well, he was looking good for... Well, the last 5 minutes of Saturday's game did seem to be get the puck to Mokshantsev, whatever you can do to get it to him so he can try and get his hat-trick.
It seemed to be out on the ice for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it was a really long shift.
Yeah, it really was. Every time you looked up, he was there, and you could see the players were all rooting for him. They all wanted him to get it. They all, it was just like, get in front of the net, get in front of the net. And he had to go and trying to be fancy again. It didn't quite. He tried Michigan, didn't he? I swear he's going to do it before the end of the season. It's happening. It's going to happen. But yeah, he's a joy to watch, isn't he? He is just fabulous to watch on the ice because, like has already been said, he does everything. He does everything right. He's sort of got it all in his locker, really. So yeah, I've enjoyed watching him play this weekend.
Okay, before we move on and say many congratulations to Alexander Mokshantev, a little announcement that we've got. Our good friend Chris Lovell, who is a Belfast fan, he's a regular contributor to the show and as TCW, he's regularly in contact with us, listens to every edition that we do live when we can. He recently took part in a charity boxing match. He did get a TKO and a black eye for his trouble, but he did manage to raise an incredible £1,575. We did announce it on the show a few weeks back, and he just wants to extend his thanks through us to anybody who sponsored him for his boxing match. The money will be going towards a young lad fighting cancer in Belfast and a men's mental health charity. So I think we'll all agree, very, very worthy causes. And many congratulations, Chris. And
absolutely, nice one, Chris.
Well done, Chris.
But with a TKO and a black eye, maybe time to give up on the boxing career for now. But thanks for getting in touch and congratulations once again on raising so much money. The Nottingham Lions unfortunately succumbed to defeat once again. A 5-2 defeat against David Longstaff's Whitley Warriors at the NIC last night in what was a close game at most of the time, but Warriors letting their class show, scoring a few very, very good goals and coming away with the win. The Lions' next game is against the Sheffield Steel Dogs, so a local rivalry. It'll be a much anticipated clash. That is at the NIC on Sunday evening, face-off at 7:30. If you're not heading down to Coventry, head to the NIC in what is sure to be a fiery game. And it's only £5 for adults, £3 Panthers season ticket holders, and children are free with a full paying adult. So get down to the Lions if you can. Right, we'll move on to the rest of the Elite League weekend results and news. I think you can guess there's only one thing we're probably going to be talking about a little later once I've gone through the scores, but the scores from the weekend. These were all league games. So on Friday night, Giants beating the Guildford Flames 5-4. Five Flyers beating the MK Lightning 3-2 in what was a 3-game stand for both teams this weekend. On Saturday, Dundee Stars beating the Coventry Blaze at the Sky Dome in overtime 3-2. The Sheffield Steelers with a 4-0 victory over the Cardiff Devils, as we've already mentioned. Braehead Clan with a much welcome 4-3 victory over the MK Lightning, much needed for them. And Manchester Storm at the top with a 3-2 victory over the Five Flyers. Then Sunday, Guildford Flames with a fantastic 6-4 victory over league leaders Manchester Storm. The MK Lightning got their only win of the weekend in Scotland, a 5-2 victory at Murrayfield against the Edinburgh Capitals, so not a great weekend for the Caps at all. Blaze revenged their overtime defeat on Saturday with an overtime win against the Stars in Dundee 2-1, and the Five Flyers with a 5-2 victory over the Braehead Clan rounds off the results. But we've left one out because that's what we're going to talk about now. The Sheffield Steelers with a 4-3 defeat at home against the Belfast Giants. They were leading 2-0 in that game. But an incident-packed game at the Sheffield Arena last night that saw Zach Fitzgerald leave the ice early on for the 5+ game high sticking penalty. Spiro Goulakis of the Belfast Giants managed to get himself a 2+10 check into the head penalty in the first period, and then was given a match penalty for kicking after being what can only be described as mercilessly attacked by Colton Fretter, who only got a 5+ game. I was amazed it wasn't a match, having seen the coverage. But Fretter with a 5+ game for checking from behind, but really looked like straightforward assault for if anybody's seen the footage. Obviously, there were reasons for it. Galakis himself did quite a bad check on Fretter just before Fretter took the law into his own hands. So, guys, we're going to talk about this one. We've all seen the footage and all gone, wow. So, we've been asked in a couple of questions that we've had today, what should the bans be and what do we think they will be? But before we get to that, the kicking penalty for Spiro Galakis. Now, I don't think it's a kicking motion from what I've seen. Yes, he definitely raises his skate, and that's a no-no because the blade is showing. But I don't think there's a kick. I think it's just an instinctive reaction after he's been put down on the ice to try and protect himself. What are all your thoughts first on the kicking penalty? Tina, let's start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said the same as you. I don't think there's a kicking motion per se. I think, me and Adam were discussing this because we'd watched the webcast, and then we saw all of this, come out and kick off on the internet, and yeah, there's not a kick as such, but if you've been knocked to the floor by somebody. And I think Fretter's gloves then go off. He shakes his gloves off, and I think he sort of wants to then sort of carry on and instigate a fight with him. But and if you've got somebody who's sort of stood towering over you, who looks like they want to fight you, and I don't really know much about Galakos, but I don't think he's a fighter per se. So
he has got a lot of penalties so far this season, mainly for mouthing off, but he has got a couple from behind as well.
As I said, I don't think he's a fighter per se. So if somebody's sort of coming over to him, and I mean, take it out of the ice rink. If you haven't got skates on, if you're on the floor, you're in a bit of a vulnerable position, and somebody is making out like they're going to jump on top of you and punch you, then the only weapon you have available to you is your feet. Speaking as a woman, if I'm on the floor and there's a guy who's going to try and jump on top of me and punch me, first thing I'm going to do is try and kick him in the nuts, quite frankly. So it's not that's like you say, I think it's instinctive, but unfortunately he is in an ice rink, he has got skates on, and you can't do that. I mean, I don't know what. Having never played hockey and never seen somebody who's got all their gear on and stuff, I don't know what kind of protection there is other than the cup. So, I don't know what would have been there to stop that skate slicing through Fretter's skin in somewhere close to his unmentionables. You can't. You can't do that. I understand. I think I kind of understand why. He did what he did, as you say, instinct. But yeah, you can't. You just can't do that.
Aaron?
Well, to be honest, we shouldn't even really be talking about this because it should never have happened. Because the ref should have done his job and called the original check from behind that he made on Fretter, and that should have been the end of it, really. I don't think there's a bend of the knee, as in a kicking motion, but. You just don't do it, and you don't, and I when Tina's talking about like Fretter throws off his gloves and he's punching him, and it's, you still don't raise your foot for me as an ice hockey player. I get what Tina's saying is like, if it's on the street, then yeah, 100% that's the first thing you do, but you don't do it as an ice hockey player. You try and throw a few more punches, you throw a few punches back or grab him and pull him down and stuff. It might be sort of instinctive, like you both said, and so from that point of view, but you've got to be smart enough to realise that you've got a nice, you are wearing skates and there's a very sharp blade on there, and you've got to control your emotions. But controlling your emotions, I don't really think is the right word to use when talking about how that player plays the game, because he has far too many penalty minutes for me, and he's done far too many questionable hits from behind. And also when you talk about Fretta's reaction as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, if I can just jump in. Aaron talks about questionable hits from behind. He'd already had a 2+10 check-in from behind penalty on Levi Nelson, I think it was.
Reviewed.
So
I would think the Steelers will probably request a review on the original hit, even though I didn't. It was bad, but I don't think it was. I think it was 2+10 bad. I don't think it was.
Nah, it should be out of the game for me. Should be out of the game.
I didn't think it was as bad as everyone was making out for it, but that's just my opinion. I thought 2+10 would have been enough for that one.
Yeah, but the problem is, I know you have to. Sorry to butt in, but I know you have to treat every individual incident as on its own. But like Tina says, he's already had a 2+10. I mean, the guy's got to use a bit of. But
it would have been his second 10 minutes.
I know, but he's still got to use a bit.
Which he'd have been out of the game anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got to use his brain, for Christ's sake. I mean, I know playing on the edge, and we all like a bit of physicality, and we like our players to, not kind of back down and be that physical and have that edge. But use your kokum, mate. You've already sat down for 10 minutes because you've already done a bad hit. Don't do it. There's no need to do that either. In that where he is. There's no need to throw that kind of check from behind.
And I can't imagine Adam Keefe was too happy either, being as short benched as they are through injuries and whatever, and they're going to be even more short benched.
He had to lay up
because he got a match penalty. So he had to play himself.
Exactly.
I'm just looking at Galakis' stats. He's got 105 penalty minutes already in 11 games.
Well, I think the Statos actually tweeted that he was the penalty minute leader for the Elite League.
Yeah,
that's just mind blowing.
Okay, we'll move on from that to the reaction from Fretta and Adam.
Yep.
It's not the sort of thing you expect Colton Fretta to do. He's a goal scorer. No. He's not a dirty player in any sense of the imagination, and it's clear something just flipped. But oh boy, did it just flip?
Yeah, he lost it. He absolutely lost it. But I think that. I listened to what Paul Thompson said in his interview after the game last night, and he's obviously spoken to Colin Fretta, and apparently, Fretta was absolutely fed up of being targeted. Now, I don't know whether Thompson meant throughout the course of this season, or whether he meant just in this game, but it's obvious that the fuse is short to start with, because he's fed up of the treatment he's getting from other players who want to go through the back of him. But yeah, I mean, it was the spark that sort of kicked everything off. And I mean, I just want to go back a little bit and agree with something that Aaron said. I mean, Mike Hicks is stood no more than about 5 yards away from that original hit through the back of Fretta from Galakos. How can he not see that? I just don't understand how he can't give a penalty on that. It's ridiculous. So, that's knocked Fretta down onto the ice, and Fretta's probably looked around and seen that no penalty's been given by Hicks, and he's obviously just decided to take matters into his own hands. I mean, thankfully he ditches his stick just before he gets to Galakos. You can see the stick flying just out of his hands before he makes contact. Well, that's what I think it looks like anyway. I don't know whether anyone's seen zoomed in images or video of that, but from the footage I've seen, he looks like he throws the stick away just before he makes contact with the back of Galakos to take him down. So I suppose we've got to be thankful for that, because if he'd gone through the back of Galakos with his stick, that could have been very, very nasty. That could have caused a hell of a bad injury to the Belfast player. But yeah, maybe Fretta has had a lot of treatment like that all season. And, we're all human, aren't we? We can only certainly tolerate a particular level of, physicality before we think that we've got to take matters into our own hands if we don't feel that we're getting the protection that we should be getting from the match officials.
I mean, you've also got to look at the fact that after it happened, not one Steelers player goes towards Galakis. Not one.
Yep.
No one goes for him. And okay, Fitzgerald had been chucked out of the game at this time. And I'm sure if he was on the ice, he would have had something to say about it. But even so, nobody at all.
Armstrong skates right by, and I think he actually skates past the Belfast player. I think so.
Yeah, and just looks and carries on.
Just looks and carries on. So, I mean, crazy. But, like I said earlier, if the ref calls the initial penalty, none of it happens.
Well, just as an interesting, I don't know, this has just sort of popped into my head. Not so long ago, we were all questioning the signing of DeVoe, the guy that they brought in. The lack of Fitzgerald being on the ice and nobody else reacting to Fretter taking that bad hit, is that the question answered?
Well,
I think it's a good question, but for me,
he wasn't even on the. He didn't even play for them this weekend. He wasn't.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
My point is, if Fitzgerald's not on the ice and nobody else is going to stand up for their teammate when he gets clattered into, is that what he's been brought in for?
Yeah, but the other point
I don't know. It was just something that
I think it's a good point, Tina.
But the other point as well is that Paul Thompson, in his excuse fest after the game, was basically saying, "Oh, we've only got 5 defensemen, and we were down to 4 defensemen, as were Belfast as well." But if that's the case, why didn't you sign a D-man instead of a forward? It just doesn't make sense. Okay,
I think they will.
Yeah, to finish this off, and I said at the start, we've been asked what should the bans be, and what do you think they will be. So, Aaron, start with you. What should the bans be for Galakis and Fretter? Very
God. Well, are you treating this? This is a problem with how Dops has been. Are you going in line with?
But what do you think they should be, and then we'll say what do you think they'll get from Dops.
Okay, so I think Galakis, if that's how you pronounce his name, I think he's a little. I think he should get 3 games.
Okay. Something
like that. Fretter, he'll probably get a medal. No, I think the problem is you cannot do that. I mean, I know. So, do you know what? Give him 3 games as well.
3 games, okay. Tina.
Well, I don't know about what he should get. I mean, I don't know the rule book inside and out.
Don't sit on that fence, Tina.
Hey, look, but it's painted all lovely, and I've got flowers on it and stuff. It's great. The trouble is that I think we're starting to see a little bit of inconsistency creeping into Dops already. So
a little bit.
Well.
Have you been on holiday for the last?
Let me finish. I mean, one thing I do want to reference, Stu Coles, who is one of the commentators on the Blaze webcast. He sort of tweeted out. The video of I can't remember the player's name now, but one of their players has just been banned for I think what a lot of people have said, well, that wasn't even a check to the head. So and that got 2 games. So if that got 2 games, then you're looking at you're probably looking at double that. Consistency is key. But I think what he should get and what he will get are probably 2 different things. So, but based on what they gave, sorry, I've forgotten his name already.
Paquette.
Sorry, Paquette. Sorry, thank you very much. I'm really not on my game tonight. Based on what they gave Paquette, you're looking at at least double, because that wasn't a hockey play. It wasn't even an attempt at a hockey play. That was it. It was filth. Both of them have made moves that are just absolutely not hockey plays. So they both deserve a lengthy sit out, to uphold player safety. So but I don't expect them to get it. But I would say you're looking at 3 or 4. I would say that. Well, I don't know actually, because the severity of both incidents is probably about equal. You know, I mean, Galactus, there was probably less intent, but it doesn't make the action any less dangerous. So, for me, I think you're looking at 3 or 4.
Okay, and Adam.
I think for Galactus, I mean, obviously those incidents will be automatically looked at by DOPS. I can imagine him getting a couple of games, maybe one for each incident. I think the league might come down heavy. Well, I say the league. I shouldn't say the league. DOPS should come down heavy on Fretter's reaction, because to me that's excessive. That is just excessive roughing for me. And whatever Galactus has done, he's in a vulnerable position in centre ice. You know, he's not looking at it's a
blindside hit. It's a
blindside hit. It's reckless. It's dangerous. Whether Fretter ditched his stick just before or at the point of contact, it's still a very, very dangerous and high risk thing to do on an ice rink. So I think that if DOPS is doing its job properly, they will probably give Fretter a 3 or 4 game ban for that.
Okay. Ant's been in touch on Twitter. He says Galactus should get 5 in total for the 3 incidents, Fretter 3. So I think I would turn that around. I would say Galactus 3 and Fretter 5, because
I'm not
Fretter's I understand
behind
previous conduct and everything, but he snaps and it's dangerous. It's blindside. It's essentially assault. There's no other way of looking at it, and I think a message should be sent, and I think 5 games would be fair. He'll probably get 3. Is what I think from DOPS, but.
Well, let's actually. Sorry to jump in and just sort of maybe go off on a slight tangent. You know, you sort of say basically what he's done is assault. Going back to him again, DeVoe. He was on an assault charge at one point for what he did in the SHL. You know, in warm-ups he went and slashed somebody with his stick.
Yes, yeah.
That's you've probably got a point. I mean, I'd like to think it stays, within hockey. We don't. I don't think we need to. Do we really need to talk about it in those serious terms? But
if he does it on the street, if he does it on the street, he gets arrested.
Oh God, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. But it's probably just as severe, to be honest. But it's not the kind of thing that you would have expected from Fretter. That is for sure.
No, I mean it is completely out of character. And we all snap, we all lose it at times, and I lost it once when I was playing hockey, and the red mist came down, and thankfully I was grabbed by a teammate before I did anything. But you can lose it very, very easily. So and I sort of understand. And he's probably mad because he's been hit, nothing's been covered by the ref, and he's not had any protection from his teammates either as well. Nobody's gone in to protect him, so he's took matters into his own hand incredibly forcefully and wrongly. But sometimes you do snap, but I think a message does need to be sent by DOPS for that one. Okay, we will leave that one there because I'm sure that will rumble on. I think the DOPS reviews will be announced tomorrow and the findings probably on Wednesday, so we will see what happens there. Of course, don't forget we've got Ask TCW on Wednesday, so any questions that you have or want us to discuss around that incident or anything else hockey related, please get in touch with us. We will give the addresses out at the end of the show. But before we finish the show, we've got 2 games to look forward to this weekend. On Saturday, Panthers taking on the Milton Keynes Lightning at the NIC with a 7 p.m. face-off. And of course, this will be the return of Mika Wietman, who is, of course, with Milton Keynes this season. So, Tina, Mika's return, he's going to want to prove a point, I'm sure.
Well, of course he is. Yeah, I think he probably would have come back if the circumstances had allowed for it. I think he enjoyed it while he was here. It's a good good pickup for Milton Keynes. He's been doing well for them. And traditionally, when you do return to your old team, you want to kind of stick it to them, don't you? Really. The one thing I would say about that is that Milton Keynes' away form is a little bit of a concern for them. So, we need to make sure we latch on to that basically. I have masses of goalie love. I loved Mika Wheatman while he was here. That's where the emotional attachment for me ends. He's a Lightning player now, and we need to go out there, seek and destroy, I'm afraid.
I mean, Aaron, it's still a potential banana skin. Milton Keynes have been playing well since they've come into the Elite League. They had almost got a point in Sheffield a couple of weeks ago with a great performance at Ice Sheffield. So we have got to be on our guard.
Yeah, 100%. They've got a good spine for me. They've got good players. Obviously, Mika, we know what he's capable of doing. Nixon on the blue line. He's going to be tough, and he'll obviously not stand for anything. Doucette, Boxall. They've got good players there, and they've got a very good coach who knows Corey, knows his systems. Obviously, worked together with GB. It'd be interesting to see MK at the Motorpoint Arena. Let's reverse it back to what we talked about at Cardiff. We need to see a reaction, and that's from the first shift to the last. We need to see a 60-minute reaction, and we need to give MK the respect that all teams in this league deserve nowadays. But we've got to be confident, we've got to be clinical, and we've got to get the 2 points.
I mean, Adam, that is important that there is a response to Sunday evening, and we pick up 2 points to keep in that race.
Yeah, it is, and I think we need to see a 60-minute response rather than a 20-minute response, because I think, going back to the Cardiff game, Cardiff played hard for 60 minutes. They didn't play hard for 20 minutes and then, take their foot off the gas. They stayed at it for the entirety of the game. We need to do the same on Saturday. Milton Keynes aren't going to roll over for us. I mean, why should they? I'm sure they'll have quite a few fans with them. They took quite a few up to Scotland over the weekend, and Tina says that they've not done well away from home. So I'm sure that the challenge for them is to try and improve their road form. So we're going to have to work hard on Saturday. We're not going to get the 2 points given to us on a plate. Some of the big guys need to stand up. We need a really good home performance, maybe a goal or two early doors. That'll get the crowd into it and get the the fans on the players' side, and then hopefully it all falls into place from there. So. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. As Aaron said, Milton Keynes have got some good talent on their roster. We all know what Doucette can do. We all know what Mika Wheatman's capable of. On any given night, he could stand on his head and make a 45, 48 shot shutout. Hopefully not Saturday, but we know that he's got that in his locker. So, but we know Mika Wheatman's weaknesses. A lot of the players on the roster. Played with him last year. They'll have ideas about how the best way to get the puck past him will be. We'll just hope that those sort of plans come to fruition on Saturday.
On Sunday, Panthers travel to the Sky Dome to take on the Coventry Blaze with a 5:15pm face-off, and there'll also be a webcast available from Clean Cut TV if you can't get to the Sky Dome. Tina, first trip to the Sky Dome this season, never a happy hunting ground as you have been looking at.
Yay! We don't traditionally do well at the Sky Dome. It's not not a place that you come out of very often with 2 points. So you have to cherish them when you do. But yes, last 20 games versus Coventry, it is in our favour actually. 12 wins, 6 losses, an overtime loss and a shootout loss. So on paper it's in our favour, but a lot of most of the wins that we've had have been home wins. There's an awful lot of losses next to those aways. We've got to keep our heads, not let that Skydome crowd get to the players. It's well publicised that it's quite unpleasant being on the bench, on the away bench at the Skydome. And it's going to be an education for the players who have never been before. I think it is. It's that tight crowd in that small rink is it can be an absolute. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it can be a proper motivator for the home team. And if they're still persisting with that blooming block full of drums, then you can easily come out there with a headache as well. So yes, I do love going down to Coventry. I do love a Coventry away trip, but it's such a disheartening place to come out of when you've had a loss.
Just like in Sheffield as well.
Let's not speak of that anymore.
Well, the Blades do have quite a tough game. They're travelling to Ice Arena, Wales on Saturday to take on the Cardiff Devils in the Challenge Cup. So Aaron, a hard game in Wales, and that could all be in our favour, but we could get a very hard game from MK as well.
Yeah, just very quickly on Tina's stats there, anybody that was there for that shootout loss, unfortunately, we're never going to forget that, are we?
No.
Jesus. That was a late one. But no, I think, you can look at that and look, we would have said a home game against Edinburgh on the Saturday meant that we had a better stance going into the Cardiff game that we've just played. So I don't really think you can make anything of other opponents because you don't know what you're going to get. I think you've got to take each game separately and look at them as a team and how you expect them to line up. It's not a nice place to go, but if you're going to be challenging at the top of the table come the end of the season, you've got to go into the Skydome and you've got to get 2 points more than you don't take 2 points. So I'm feeling pretty confident about the weekend. I think we're going to get a 4-point weekend. I think.
The Lord has spoken.
The Lord has spoken, and that's put the mockers on it.
Well, no, I just think I think obviously the players and everyone spoke about Sunday was disappointing. I think you're going to have 3 netminders wanting to start. That'll be interesting, and I think. I just think we're gonna put it right, and we're gonna go in there. I think we'll get 2 points each night. So I think we're going to be in for a good weekend. And I've said it, and do you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm not going to be on next Monday's podcast.
Nothing new there, then.
No. Well, you're going to say, just feel like all blooming summer.
Exactly.
Well, just before you do move on to Adam. Please, for the love of God, whichever goalie is starting, please tell him about the goal pegs.
No, let's have a Matthias Modig moment. Come on.
It was last season. Poor old Henry. I think he went in there just knowing absolutely nothing, and the net's just sprawling about all over the place. He's just holding his hands up, going, "What the heck?" It's just so that is actually a serious note. They need to know. They need to know about it. It's a bugbear. The Coventry fans don't like it. They hate it just as much as the rest of us, I think. But doesn't seem to be anything that can be done about it. But so that whichever netminder's starting, they need to go in there prepared. That's definitely one thing they need to know.
Adam, I watched Danny Stewart's interview after the defeat at home to Dundee Stars in overtime on Saturday. And to say he was raging is an understatement. He was not happy in the slightest. But he got a reaction from his team on Sunday. Yeah. And I suppose that's something that Coventry are capable of. They're doing okay in the table. They're winning a few games, and it's not going to be easy, as it ever is at the Sky Day.
They're holding their own so far this season. They've had a bad few seasons, I think, where their rosters haven't had a great deal of quality on them, and obviously that's reflected in where they finished in the league standings each year. I think this team is probably built more in the mould of Danny Stewart, which whether you loved him or loathed him, did try hard for 60 minutes, and would always be in your face. And I think that. As others have said, you never get a free night in Coventry. If you go down to that building, you've got to work hard. You've got to do all the sort of dirty things on the ice. You've got to scrap for the puck, and Coventry won't let us play our usual style and brand of hockey. So we're going to have to sort of graft it out and do the dirty stuff there down in the Sky Dome. I still think that we probably should have just about enough quality to bring 2 points back from Coventry. I'm like Aaron, too confident that I think we can get a 4-point weekend this weekend. I think that certainly need to respond to what happened in Cardiff, and 4 points is the best possible response we could hope for.
Okay, right. I think we will leave it there for this evening. And just to remind you that Ask TCW will be back on Wednesday, so please get your questions in to us. We've had a few already over the weekend, so get them in. Best way is on Twitter, @CatsWhiskersTV. Use the hashtag AskTCW. We've also got our dedicated thread on the Cage Forum. There's a TCW Facebook page, the various Panthers Facebook pages where you can leave questions. And if you want to send a longer question, there's always email tcwonlinetv@gmail.com. However, that is it for this evening. So all that remains to say is thank you very much to Aaron Lord.
Thank you.
Tina Taylor.
TTFM.
And Adam Reddish.
Thanks, everyone.
And many thanks to you too for listening. We'll be back on Wednesday. But until then, bye-bye. This edition of the Cats Whiskers podcast was brought to you by the Bunkers Hill Hockley.